is a doctor whose core beliefs will change the way you think about your body and hopefully inspire you to change the way you think about physical fitness. What's more, his research and personal experience led him to the greatest discovery of all, which he promises to share with everyone, nothing less than the true meaning of life. Please welcome Dr. Scott Bertrand, founder and CEO of AllCore360. Scott?
Hey, good morning, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak on such a prestigious panel of professionals. Okay, thank you. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to talk on such a prestigious panel of professionals. Listening to Ruth there, Ruth really mentioned a lot of things that I intended on mentioning today, and I think she's right. I think the successful people in entrepreneurial world are going to follow those same guidelines that the Olympics follow. And the other thing, allow me to talk about healthcare innovation and fitness, because when you really think about it, they're the same thing. And I think so often in our world, we've separated them. So healthcare innovation and fitness innovation really isn't anything more than human optimization. And in that same vein, I think many people out there in that entrepreneurial space, especially in the healthcare entrepreneurial space, have probably spent months right now, literally months and months and months working on a business plan. And they're putting in all the details and doing all the extra effort and all the extra work, and they're still struggling. And I just encourage you to endure, like Ruth said, endure. That's the main thing. Many of you have spent years, I mean, literally years, just going through the business plan, following the direction that you're supposed to be following, making all the meetings, doing all the engineering, doing all the prototyping, doing all the research, doing all the patenting, sitting with all the investors, but you're still struggling. And that's okay. In healthcare, I really encourage you to endure. There'll be people out here, and most of this panel, I think, will be that same group that, like myself, have literally spent 3 decades in pursuit of a way that you can improve the health in people around the globe. I really don't think there's a better thing that you can do in your life than in healthcare innovation, when you actually have the opportunity to improve the lives of people around the planet. It's pretty exceptional, and we've been very blessed to be been able to innovate in that space. And you know, we talk about persistence all the time, perseverance, persistence really by definition, a firm or obstinate continuation in a course or direction that is going to have opposition. I guarantee you, you're going to have opposition. And perseverance and persistence is, it's going to take a longer time. Accept that. It's not going to be this week. It won't be this month. It won't be next year for most of us. It's a long process. But in your innovation, you get to change the world. You get to do things that nobody else can do. It's not like you're making a better car. You're making a better person. And so you never want to stop that. It doesn't matter how long it takes. You really have to go through the process. Napoleon Hill, I think, is one of the best speakers of our time and writers of our time. And he very specifically said, the only difference between Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and everybody else was persistence and perseverance. And that's the difference. So I know there's so many of you out there struggling, and I struggled and struggled and struggled. Healthcare innovation is worth the struggle. Just don't give up. And I'm going to go over the 3 things I think that are different in healthcare innovation. I mean, healthcare innovation is not the same as, you know, maybe the space industry or even making more fuel efficient cars. Healthcare innovation gets to work. The first thing I think is different in healthcare innovation is you get to work with the human body. Now, what's so special about that? I mean, the human body, caveman version. There's no new model coming out. If you came out with an innovation today that would help the caveman, it's probably going to help you. It's probably going to help future generations to come. How big and how great can that be? You get to work with the human body, and it's not going to change. The nice thing about the human body, it lasts and lasts and lasts. So I really suspect in 1,000 years, the human body we're working with is going to be predominantly the same as the one we're working with today. So when you can make a change that improves the health of people today, you're probably going to be able to make a change in people when you're not even around. And there's not much better reward than being able to help people on the planet. That's the first thing. So you get to work with the human body, and that's huge, and that's different than healthcare innovation in other spaces. The next thing is that what's so great about healthcare innovation When you do something right in the healthcare world, you can affect the world globally. We're all driving the same machine. We have this same machine that we need to improve. Everybody wants human optimization. Why not? There's longevity studies. We're the vegan, all those ways to be healthier. We're learning. We need to embrace. We need to move forward. Everybody wants to work on human optimization. I think healthcare got stuffed into a basket early on when us physicians ended up fixing broken bodies. People were coming in with broken up bodies, and all I wanted to tell them was, don't break up your body. Maybe take care of it. And that's where health care innovation is so important. The idea is to stabilize and maintain good health and not just fix it after we break it up. So that's the second one. It has a global impact. And the third one is, and I think this is very different in healthcare innovation. You know, it's almost the entrepreneurial mantra, think outside the box, think outside the box. And I get that. And in a lot of industries, I think thinking outside the box is relative and appropriate. But I really don't think it is that way with the human body. My true belief, the human body, don't think this conscious mind that we get to drive around, that we get to read some books and learn a little bit more, is any wiser than this honed machine, the body that's been around for tens of thousands of years and has proven itself to be the best survival machine on the planet. That's pretty impressive. When you're the best survival machine on the planet, that's a pretty predominant state to be. So don't think outside the box. Don't think outside the body. Think inside the body. The body's brilliant. The body knows how to work. Our job in healthcare innovation is to assist that, to help the body do what it does. And I think that's where all healthcare innovators need to be. And I think those are the reasons why in healthcare innovations you need to persist. It takes longer to do those things. So healthcare innovation, I think, also has check boxes. Let's put it this way. If you really want to have a healthcare innovation, I really think you need to go a series of at least 6 check boxes. There's dozens, but you have to knock out these 6 check boxes. So those of you out there that are suffering with your innovations, I want you to kind of start where we're starting. And this is how an innovation in healthcare becomes successful. And I'm sure the panelists will agree. Healthcare innovation, it usually starts with a body part, a body system. There's some part of the body that we want to address, whether it's cellular or physical, or there's some part mental. We're working on a part of the body we want to address. And what's really important is you perfectly understand that body part. Anatomically, I'm not saying you have to be a physician, but I'm saying you really need to know what's going on with the body part that's in the state of dis-ease. It's not functioning properly. It's not repairing properly. It has symptoms. There's something wrong. But you really need to initially really understand the body parts you're working with. That's step one. And here's a major step. And this is where I think we have a lot of problems in healthcare. The second step is when you look at that body part, what is the survival function of that body part? The body doesn't have any spare parts. The body, basically, every little part on our body was designed for survival. It really wasn't designed for anything else. We don't have extra things hanging around that we don't need or use. So what you really need to do is then evaluate the area that you're concerned with and how the body uses that to survive. You have to know that. Then you go into the third phase. This is just as important. You need to research and really understand how the body uses that body part to survive. How is it using the arm? How is it using, in our case, the core? How is it using these parts of the body to survive? And only then can you get into the fourth part, I think, the fourth box. And this is where healthcare innovations is. We're not in that space to go in there and tell the body what we think the body needs to do. What we really need to do is understand how the body does it. And then our job is to stimulate or enhance or encourage or support the body in its job to survive. If we take care of that, if we come in there and determine how we can make sure that the body can survive with that part that's broken down, I promise you that's what the body wants. And what we need to do is work with the body and not against the body. The fifth thing that we really got to pay attention to, and in healthcare innovation, it's different because we have to have the research. It's not like we're making a more fuel efficient car where we can grab a bottle of goo and throw it in the gas tank, because the worst thing that can happen to that is the car fails. I'm not going to throw that body of goo in my body, because the worst thing that could happen is I could die. So in healthcare innovation, we need to be really focused on the research part of it. Many people out there will realize there are a lot of anecdotal, information they're getting, and Mrs. Jones is now taking 2 doses of vitamin C and her hair quit falling out. And there's a lot of that anecdotal stuff out there. But what you have to do is do research. And I encourage those of you in the healthcare innovation space to go to, if you're fortunate enough to go to the research institution that dominates that space, that dominates the people that look for the information, the new research to come down and that they learn and try to understand. And then the very last checkbox that you have to do, and I'm just going to say, in my life, it was the one that I really had errors at this phase. I started out with an idea and a passion that I could help the world in their core maladies, and I thought that I could do it alone. And I'm going to say that this 6th box you need to check might be your most important box you need to check. As much as we like to think we can do it alone, most of us don't even know what it is. So what you need to do is gather a team early on. And that team needs to be motivated with the same passion that you're motivated for. And in healthcare, it can't be about money. If you're motivated about money in healthcare, you will not succeed. You have to be motivated about helping human beings improve their lives. And I'm not just saying better shoes, improve their lives and their ability to live longer. And that's kind of where we're at with the AllCore360. We've tried to go through these 6 boxes and check those boxes. And I would encourage everybody out there in that entrepreneurial space, especially in healthcare, to go through those 6 boxes. And what I'm going to share with you, and the only thing I can really share with you, is how we did that with the AllCore360. And I know you're unfamiliar with the AllCore360, so I want to start with the beginning, and let's go with the very first box that we need to check. Absolutely understand the part of the body that's in a state of disease. I want to share with you my personal story. And I think you'll find in healthcare innovation, personal stories are often how they start. Somebody had a malady, somebody's mother had an issue, somebody's mother was in the hospital, a loved one was going through a process that somehow we felt that we could do, but we might be able to help improve that process. It usually starts emotionally. It usually starts internally. It usually starts with taking care of someone you love. And I think that's critical. I think it's very important that you pay attention to that. The way I started, when I was 18 years old, I had a skydiving injury where I broke my low back. I wasn't paralyzed, but I was exquisitely injured. And as most people know, spinal cord injuries are extremely painful. I very anxiously looked forward to therapy. And I realized that in spinal cord injury therapy, it's not the spinal cord. It's not just the individual vertebral components. The spinal cord is part of what I would call the core. And the core really is a muscular tube that starts at our neck and our skull and ends at our pelvis. Somewhere around the world, we've decided that the abdominal muscles were the core and the oblique muscles were the core. 2 or 3 muscles that we can see in the mirror were the core. And what a fascinating wrong concept. There are hundreds of muscles that make up the core. In fact, all animals really, and humans are nothing but a muscular tube with arms and legs plugged in, or flippers and hooves, or wings and tails, whatever we plug into this tube for locomotion. But what we are is this tube. So when you're dealing with a healthcare innovation, we chose that tube because there's so many maladies that can affect that tube. Spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, stroke injury, post-stroke patients, there are hundreds of thousands of stroke new cases a year, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, scoliosis, all these things affect the core. Back sprain, back strain. I mean, that's almost on an epidemic level. The whole chiropractic profession is based on that core, and that pain originates from the core. So again, you have to really, really understand that part of the body. And we understood the core very well because, again, only did I experience that. And several years after I broke my low back, I actually broke my neck in a swimming pool accident. I got thrown into that process again. So I do know therapy for the core and for spinal cord injury. And as a physician, I realized we were doing it so wrong. So what I had to realize is we need to go back to the beginning and understand what the core was, and we have explained that, the muscular tube that helps us move gracefully and efficiently through space, and then determine the survival value of the core. Now, here's really where the world's messed up. For some reason, we have thought that the core, the object of the core, the reason we have a core, and some people believe the reason we have a core is to hit a golf ball farther. Well, the core can do that. I mean, it can. Or throw a baseball faster. Oh, yeah, the core can absolutely do that. Or look really pretty walking up and down the beach with six packs. Without question, the core can do all those things. But that's our survival functions. That's what we've decided we want the core to do. The survival function of the core, think about what the survival function of the core really is, and you'll understand our innovation. The survival function of the core is to maintain a perfect, efficient posture. And a perfect, efficient posture is the way the body can protect itself from injury. It's very, very difficult to hurt yourself when you're in that perfect, efficient posture. Picture that posture that every athlete starts their sport with. That posture, that perfectly balanced posture, that's part of what the survival value is of the core. Maintaining that posture is what keeps us from getting injured. And the second thing, I mean, this is obvious. The object of the core, it's a thick, dense girdle of muscles that really protect the internal organs and the central nervous system. We can't live without either of those. So is that important? Well, I think it was a very valid area to address. I want my internal organs protected. I want my central nervous system to function. So we realize that the core really can take care of all those things. And that's the reason that's the survival function. Again, it can hit a golf ball, but we have to understand what we want to do is work with the survival function. Now, the third box, how does the body do that? How does the body maintain that perfect, exceptional core? It does it isometrically. And I think most people know what isometric means, but isometric means there's a contraction of the muscle without it moving. So when we were children and we laid on the floor, we were just kind of a ball of muscles on the floor because we had no intrinsic, no muscle contraction, no tone state at all. It took us a year to stand up. And we fell down all the times. It's taken our whole lifetime to develop an isometrically balanced core that allows us to do everything we do every day. We've taken that so for granted. You lift up your arm. Well, if you think about it, when you lift up your arm, really you should have fallen over towards your arm because you took a weight and took it out of balance. But before you moved your arm, hundreds of muscles contracted so you didn't fall over. That's the miracle of the core. And that's what we realized was in so much distress in all those maladies that it was surely an area that we wanted to work on. So we had to realize that if we wanted to really challenge and help the core, it had to be isometrically. Wow, just think about that. If you ask the world right now, how would you challenge or train the core, whether you challenge it in a fitness scenario because you're an Olympic athlete, or whether you challenge it in a therapy scenario because you've torn your oblique, it's very different. We really need to understand how we're going to affect it in the long term. So the way we did it with AllCore360, we took that isometric contraction that maintains a perfect posture and realized that isometric contraction has to be challenged in the 360 degrees of potentiality it has. Think about what we do now. We actually go to the gym to challenge the core, and we take this 360 degree muscle and we bend it this way. We call that a sit-up. And we'll bend it this way. We'll call that a side bend. And then we walk over to do something else in the gym and you go, wait a minute, this core has 360 degrees of potentiality. We chose 2 degrees to challenge. Do we wonder why we're so unbalanced? Do we wonder why our backs are in such a disarray? It's not surprising. We've never known how to really take care of it. So what we had to do with the AllCore360, we have to challenge the core in 360 degrees. We have to challenge it isometrically. I wanted to make a machine that anybody could use. And with the AllCore360, we developed a device that really can affect 99.99% of the population. So that's what the AllCore360 does. And it helps those people in those spaces. So we all know people that have a stroke, and we all know people that have been paralyzed. We all know people that have back issues. So it really is one of those devices that can absolutely affect the planet. And so in healthcare innovation, there is nothing more rewarding. I promise you right now that there's not enough money that you could hand me that would reward me any more than the reward I received when a little boy who could never walk stood up and walked. That's healthcare innovation. And it may not just be one person. I mean, it could be hundreds, it could be thousands. It could be not just this generation, it could be every generation. Healthcare innovation is so fabulous. It has taken me 30 years of my life. It really has. But the rewards, I can't begin to explain to you the way you will feel when you can impact people's lives in the way that the AllCore360 does. I know I could talk about this endlessly. I'm very blessed again to be on this panel of physicians. I really want to say that already I've got some information that I will look into. And I want everyone to know that in that space, I'm available. I've been doing this a long time, and I would be more than happy to assist you in any way I can. So please reach out. We're www.allcore360.com. Again, my name is Scott Bertrand. I'm the inventor of the AllCore360. I'm the CEO of Core Therapeutics, and I'm the Chief Research Officer of AllCore Holdings. You can reach me any of those ways. And again, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to this crowd.
Okay, Scott, thank you so much for your time.